All right, everybody, welcome back to the Combatcast. We are live and cooking. And Chevy, let's tell me what we got coming up.
All right, next week, January 28th, no UFC fight card, so Dave and I are going to duel again, MMA Jeopardy, so 2023 edition.
Bang for me, but I got
right. February 5th, there's a weird fight card. That is a Sunday. UFC Fight Night, Lewis versus Spivak. The main card starts at 1 a.m. Eastern, so we'll be watching that in our leisure time on Sunday.
Yes.
I'm not staying up for that one. So February 11th, UFC 284, Makhachev versus Volkanovski. Going to be a huge card. Looking forward to that one.
Yeah. Be very interesting to see how that plays out. We'll get more into it as we get close, but I still don't even know who to favor in that. There's so many different variables for that fight. Just because Volkanovski, his first time. I feel that kind of way we're going to get into the news. I don't know if you want to start with that John Jones-Gane fight. To me, I favor Jones because it's John Jones, even though I may not like him. He is the greatest, arguably, UFC fighter of all time. But first time at heavyweight, 3 years off. Never competed at this division. What does he look like? And his last couple fights looked human. Looked like a beatable guy.
He got hit. So
right.
Can you withstand those shots at heavyweight?
Right.
I just think he can because
it's John.
Got lucky,
And John, he took the time to put on the weight, so you think, and he looks like a beast. But
he's getting older too.
Yes.
So
there's a lot of different things here, and I don't think Gane is the toughest matchup for him at heavyweight. I think Nagano was because of just the overall power and the wrestling he started to display. But next to that, I would have said Stipe. I would argue even Curtis Blades because of the wrestling.
Very, very bad matchup for Gane. Curtis Blades, right. For sure.
Yeah. So I feel like Gane is one of the more favorable matchups. I mean, although very technical in his striking and no pushover because he's still one of the elite, I don't think this is the worst matchup he could have got. So it's very interesting.
Right. John Jones still, I think, has like the longest reach in the UFC, so that won't make a big difference. His cage IQ is off the charts. I'm sure that he saw what Francis was able to do in the grappling department, although I assume Gane did not anticipate that. But he's not going to be able to stop a John Jones takedown. DC couldn't stop one. So I think, even with all those variables that you were saying, John Jones is still the greatest that the sport has to offer. It hurts me to say that, but those are facts, and he's going to eat Gane up.
Until we see otherwise.
Yeah, I think he'll control it with the grappling, and if he wants, he'll do well on the feet as well. So
another analogy I'll draw here too, and I hate to knock him, and I'm excited about the upcoming fight, and I'm happy for him. Leon Edwards got the win over Kamaru Usman the last time, but Usman, from what I've seen, finishing guys at welterweight, looking dominating, beating everybody in weight class, beats Edwards up in their first encounter. Years later, they fight again. Usman is dominating the fight all the way to that final round. It's like that stuff can happen. Like Jones could get caught still. But, is Usman, I still don't believe he's not the best welterweight currently until I see otherwise, So
right. I think just the chances of him getting caught because of that heavyweight is a greater percentage. So,
absolutely.
I think that would be
with Francis. Sorry to not see that fight. I don't know if you want to go into that one next.
Yeah. Obviously, Francis Ngannou is now a free agent. He's just no longer beholden to the UFC. He's talked about. I haven't heard much about it recently, but going to boxing and possibly boxing Tyson Fury, who seemed open to it at one point. What do you think about that?
It's interesting. I think it's where we're going. I'm going to throw another one at you. We'll go to Dana's response to a little bit here, which I know he got heat and stuff too, but it's okay. There's something like I'm actually, let's not hold a division up if he's not coming back. So I don't have a problem with that. He's taking he wants probably, in his estimation, and again, he's wording it very carefully. He's saying, in his opinion, lesser competition for more money. Well, if he wants to fight with Tyson Fury in boxing, that's not lesser competition, and it's definitely not less money. So that doesn't really add up. It's like, let me just say that we couldn't come to terms, and we don't want to hold the division up. He wants some stuff we're not willing to give him right time. You could even say, we thought we offered him a sweet deal, the highest paid UFC heavyweight of all time, but at the end of the day, he's looking to do something that we're no longer looking to do. I would have totally respected that answer. As for Ngannou versus Fury, for him, I hope it happens. It's obviously like when you talk about a guy like McGregor going over to fight Mayweather, we saw what happens, but at the end of the day, they're at least matched up. You have a younger MMA fighter who's predominantly a striker. In this case, we're going against one of the all-time great heavyweights who's got unbelievable footwork and can knock you out. It's heavyweights. It's more dangerous, like we talked about. Francis obviously has more of a puncher's chance than a McGregor, say, or someone. But when you're talking Tyson Fury, who moves around like a much lighter man, that chances start to dwindle. And
he took those shots from Deontay Wilder, who is a monster puncher in his own right. So,
yeah.
I just don't think Francis technically would be good enough to. I mean, he might hit Tyson a couple times, but I don't think he could put him out with one shot. But I don't know. Francis is a monster too.
Did you hear the rumors? I wanted to ask you about this. That Jake Paul? Well, I know it's been already today. He's talking about fighting Tommy Fury, and that's all. But there was actually Jake Paul was putting it out there. Someone's putting out there. Jake Paul wanted to fight Francis Ngannou. What do you now? Let's say that Jake was willing to fight him at a heavyweight and didn't care about whatever the weight, blah blah blah. Jake's obviously a more skilled boxer. But
I'm not gonna entertain this. Jake Paul would die in the ring. If he dies, he dies. He would die.
But
yeah,
we would draw money for PFL.
Hell yeah, and Jake Paul's family would get a lot of money when he died. So,
I mean, if you're PFL, I say you can make any kind of fancy boxing match with Jake Paul, and then you can convince Ngannou to go win their heavyweight champion and do an interpromotional match with Bellator or something. I mean, I talked about this before. I said, wouldn't it be interested if Francis left and just started capturing other MMA heavyweight championships before he fought Tyson Fury? Like, you could build this up in a spectacular way. Like, he's clearly the top heavyweight in MMA. We already know he is. But I'm saying, of all time. And then, of course, at the end of the day, you're going to do it in the body. Unless Fury, who could, has the cojones to say, you know what? I'm going to do this in a kind of, we'll do boxing, then we'll do MMA, or even a hybrid rules. Yeah. Which, I mean, if they did that, wow, now you got even a hardcore person's attention, right? Where you're like, okay, you do the first round. I would imagine Tyson being the A-side would probably say, I'm going to do the first 2 rounds boxing. And then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Shit, if Francis could hold on for 2 rounds, that's an interesting fight.
Yeah, I don't know. The capturing all the belts and then fighting Tyson seems interesting, but I don't know, for MMA, it puts boxing on a pedestal above MMA, I would say. Which, if you're going to go do their sport, they should be at the top. But overall, I'm just happy for Francis. I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility. I think I heard Schaub or something say that, and I agree with him, that it's not outside the realm of possibility that Francis comes back to the UFC. I think maybe if he just gets this Tyson Fury fight, which the UFC was unwilling to do, which makes sense after Conor, because Conor owns part of the company and his logos for his companies are all over the place and shit. I don't think the UFC want to make that mistake again. So
if Francis makes his name so undeniable and it's worth it, you do business now. But if you're UFC and he just gets smoked and he kind of goes away, well, then you still might do business with him, but he may not be worth the same money to you. And then so if you're UFC, I kind of understand. Okay, we don't want to do this. Let's see how this plays out, and we'll see where we negotiate with him in the future. And if you're Francis, hey, I'm betting on myself. I'm X amount, years old. I don't know what he's 36, 35, but
Yeah, he's up there, 36.
Up there, so yeah, so he takes this opportunity, even if it doesn't work out. It's his biggest payday. He could still make money for other companies like the PFL and Bellator. So yeah, why not? I'd say this made the most sense for these two to kind of separate, actually.
And for the UFC, obviously they're betting on Jon Jones because they didn't want to pay Francis all this money, and then Jon Jones comes in and destroys Francis, and then they have a rematch, and Jon destroys him again or whatever. So the thing is if Jon goes through Gane, that builds the fight against Francis even more for Francis to come back, and Francis would make more money on his return if Jon wins. So
total hypothetical. Obviously, this is way too many variables. But we're playing like this, fantasy anyway. Nagano wins a PFL Bellator title, like I said. He goes on. He somehow beats Tyson Fury in a hybrid fight too. Biggest fucking name. Jones smokes Gane. Then he beats Stipe on top of it. This is the year they have. Maybe Jones even knocks out another. And then the following year, if they could get him back, like Nagano versus Jones for the undisputed UFC heavyweight champion, it would be
a fight of all time.
It'd be the biggest heavyweight fight of all time, biggest fight of all time,
biggest UFC fight of all time if that happened for sure.
Absolutely, it would be a modern era Ali Frazier, Ali Foreman in mixed martial arts. It would be huge.
Yeah. So, as far as the UFC betting on Jon Jones, that'll lead us into our last piece of news. Jon Jones is now the second highest paid UFC athlete after Conor, obviously, according to Jon's management.
Yep. I mean, why not? I mean, he probably has at this point, other than Conor, he has the biggest name out there. He's kind of stayed out of the trouble in the last year or so that I can remember. It's kind of hard to keep tabs on Jon. But nothing crazy that I remember. So, yeah, I'd say, let's see, he got kicked out of his gym, right? So, and that, people talk about that, but that could be
with Cejudo now.
Yeah. So, I mean, that could be a good thing. You get the right people around you, have a fresh start. I'm kind of personally, I was really already done with Jon, but I mean, if he's able to do that, he got lucky ninth chance for him, and he can pull it off. I mean, I can't hate on anybody that changes their life around. So I'm not a fan, but still, at the end of the day, I respect what he's done, and I can't argue with the value that this guy probably brings to the UFC.
Right, I agree with you. Yeah. All right, let's move on. Move on to last week's card.
Yes, a card that we both admit I did not watch. You did not. Said you
I was
saw.
in and out. Yeah, in and out.
Yeah, so I just put a couple things together on potential fights for the main card winners. I think we'll just breeze through this. Umar Nurmagomedov, undefeated bantamweight. I thought, moving up a couple rankings higher than him, why not Pedro Munoz for the next fight?
That's good, especially with Umar's striking that he showcased in this fight. Pedro, excellent on the feet. So I don't know if he could withstand Umar's wrestling, but that's a good matchup to find out a good progression and move him along the rankings too.
And like I said, we're going to breeze through this. So Raquel Pennington, we're not even going to really entertain this too much. She is the number 2 contender after her win over Vera. To me, she waits for Pena and Nunes to fight, and I don't see any other reason. Unless that fight never happens, it's a yes to take a fight. But right now, if I was her management team, at this point, too, Nunes could be close to retiring or something. So I would say just sit on waiting for a title fight.
Yeah, probably the right choice.
Yeah.
Unless, somebody else makes a name for themselves in the meantime,
Absolutely.
And you call them out.
Roman Krylov. I don't know if I wrote this down right.
Kopylov.
He wrote. He was victorious. Middleweight. I thought. I didn't see him in the rankings yet. So a guy that I can't remember if he was ranked 13 but we know very well. Kelvin Gastelum, not able to fight on this card. He hasn't fought in a while. I thought, okay, up and comer guy. Good. Also, Kelvin's that guy, right? He's durable. Let's see where Kelvin is at this point in his career. Let's see where Roman is That would be an interesting fight.
Yeah, that's a good matchup. I like that. I actually hope we get to see that. If we don't, I'd still want to see the Gastelum versus Imavov fight. But if we don't get that one, I'd be down to watch him and Kopylov for sure.
And this one, I think I actually did liked. Dan Ige, after his impressive victory, looking great.
Yeah, he looked fantastic.
Looked fantastic. This is the one I saw this one. He's ranked, and basically we both know how we both feel. We check this out. Ranked number 13, though. And I was looking at the rankings, just a couple ahead of him. Number 11, coming off a loss, Bryce Mitchell. I thought, hey, there's guys with relatively good names. Let's see them. Different styles. Bryce likes to use that wrestling. Mm-hmm. I'd be interested in that fight.
Yeah, that's a good matchup, too. I think I'd favor Dan. If we see the Dan that we saw this weekend, I think I'd favor him over Bryce in that one, but good matchup.
All right. And finally, Sean Strickland, who got the victory. He's ranked number 7. He's already had kind of his chance at some of the top fight guys. So I think he's got to fight his way back up still. But I had a couple guys that were slightly ahead of him. One of them, I'm not so sure where he is in the UFC, Paul Acosta. Who's number 6 right now. So I didn't actually put this one down because I think he's in negotiations for his contract.
Like refusing to fight or whatever because
Yeah, so I didn't go with him. I went with a guy who I believe has said he's looking to fight again, Derek Brunson, who's number 5. And I thought Brunson, with his striking and wrestling, is a very interesting match. I probably favor him, actually, stylistic over Strickland. But I
agree. I think I would favor Brunson as well, and I think that's a good fight for him to get back into contention for a title shot, which obviously coming back from his very short retirement would be what he's trying to do.
Yeah, I agree. So those are some fights we'd like to see based off the winners. I think that's pretty good. I think it's time we look at this weekend.
Yeah, very excited about this weekend's card. We're back to pay-per-views. The first pay-per-view of 2023, UFC 283, Teixeira versus Hill from Brazil.
Awesome. So, go ahead.
There's a lot of good fights on this card. I just want to shout out Cody Stamann and Terrence McKinney are on the early prelims. The disrespect from the UFC of putting them on the early prelims, I don't understand unless you're just trying to get eyeballs on there. But
maybe,
yeah. I don't have Fight Pass anymore because it has almost no value, so I won't be able to watch them. But keep an eye out for them if you have Fight Pass.
And maybe that's the argument. Maybe they see that, and maybe that's why they're trying to do that, and they're going to start loading that up. Optimistically, I'll come up with that. I don't know.
I don't know. They just have too many fight cards to really have loaded cards like that all the way down. But anyway, we'll move on to the prelims, which there are a couple interesting fights. First, I just want to highlight Haltian Almeida versus Shamil Abdulakimov. Almeida is a minus 900 favorite, which is ridiculous in MMA, unless you're like an Amanda Nunes or something like that. It's a ridiculous betting line. So I expect Haltian to have a number next to his name when they do the rankings next week for sure. Shamil's very tough, but
heavyweight. I mean, that's what's interesting. And at this point too, with John Jones coming into the heavyweight division, not a bad time to be an up and comer trying to make a name for yourself when the heavyweight division gets a bigger profile name like that. So good on. Hopefully Almeida ends up doing as well as we think, and maybe he's a guy we're talking about a year or two from now in a title picture.
Right. And then the featured bout on the prelims, Mauricio Shogun Hua versus Ior Porteria. This is Shogun's final fight, his retirement fight in the UFC in Brazil, from his home in Brazil. Shout out to him.
Is he now he's retiring from MMA altogether, right?
I think so, but you never know with these guys.
Yeah. I mean, he's a guy that could make more money probably still elsewhere and fight lesser competition. So I get that. But I think it's a good way for Shogun to go out, in his home country. I hope he gets to win. You never really know. UFC doesn't always do these guys favors, but Shogun's had a great career and one of the true legends. His fight with Dan Henderson, their first fight, absolutely epic back and forth fight. So, and all the great fights he had in Pride. So, if you're a new fan, I would always say go back and check some of Shogun's greatest fights. He's definitely got the resume.
Yeah, I'm rooting for him too. But usually these careers don't end in a win. Even if you're fighting at home, look at Frankie Edgar.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm rooting for Shogun. All right, move on to the main card. Excellent main card. We're gonna start off with Paul Craig versus Johnny Walker.
Absolutely. I'm so glad we're starting off with this fight too. Paul Craig is 16-5-1. He's got hold on a second here. All right. I don't know what I wrote down, but this doesn't seem right. I got 3 KOs, so he's probably like 13 subs. And Paul Craig has never gone to decision. That's my point. Every fight he's ever won, he's won through a finish. Okay. Now he's won 4 out of his last 5. He is coming off a loss, but he's had performance of the night 7 times. He's absolutely, when you hear puncher's chance, Paul Craig he's submission's chance. All right. He's always going for submission. Now, puncher's chance is his opponent, Johnny Walker. 19-7, 15 KOs, 3 subs, 1 decision. He's only gone to decision for one of his victories, too. This fight is probably going to be finished. Between both these guys, they had performance of the night 11 times. This is absolutely a banger to start this show off. Walker is coming in here in his home country, Brazil. He absolutely has what it takes. I don't think he's the overall better fighter, but he absolutely has what it takes to pull off the victory here. He's going to be jacked up. He's going to be looking for that. It pains me to say this because I love Paul Craig. I think he's such an entertaining guy, but I have this feeling he's going to get caught. And here's the thing. As good as like Paul Craig is on the mat, I don't know that Johnny Walker is like, I don't know if he's just going to go through him. I think Paul Craig could submit him, but like I think Walker might be capable enough to keep it standing, and I think he's just stylistically he's just got that power advantage is going to play a part here. I like Walker. I say he's going to get it done in round 2 TKO. What's up, Sean?
Yeah, quick shout out to Sean Shamrock. Congrats on your new position with Proper 12. Friend of the show, Sean Shamrock.
Oh yeah, I always see him at the Bellator shows. Love this guy. So.
That's right. All right, so I agree with you with this fight. Obviously, it's a striker versus grappler matchup for sure. Craig is always super dangerous, especially off his back. And I agree with you that on the feet, Walker has a huge advantage. But I don't know if guys have quite learned that you don't follow Paul Craig down to the ground. If you put him down there, you need to just back up and let him back up.
Right.
So we'll see. I know that, speaking of Sean Shamrock and Conor McGregor, I know that Johnny Walker trains at SBG. So hopefully Kavanaugh has him, zeroed in on what he needs to do and keep this fight on his feet. So
it's a very interesting fight, though, because of their styles.
Right. So I agree with you, though. I do think I'm going to give the nod to Johnny Walker. I think he hurts Craig, and he's disciplined enough not to follow him down. So I'll say this ends in a decision for Johnny Walker.
All right.
Move on to our next fight. Lauren Murphy versus Jessica Andrade.
Jessica Andrade, 23-9, 9 KOs, 8 subs, 6 decision. Former UFC Women's Strawweight Champion. She's tied with Rose Namajunas and Amanda Nunes for most finishes in UFC Women's Strawweight history. Most knockouts in UFC Women's Strawweight history. This is bantamweight, obviously, but I believe she's like the number 2 or number 1 contender right now. So like one win here in Brazil, like she's in title contention at flyweight. I said because
I think she's number 6. I think Lauren Murphy is number 2, and I think Andrade is number 6, if I remember correctly.
You know what?
Because she's been going up and down in weight classes, right. I think that messed with her ranking a little bit.
Let's talk about this a little bit here. Hold on a second. You got me. Because she beat Amanda Lemos in her last fight there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, regardless, Lauren Murphy, 16-5, 8 KOs, 1 sub, 7 decisions. She's won 5 out of her last 6. Murphy is hard to beat. She is one of those competitors that if you're a knockout or you're a finisher, Murphy doesn't usually let you do that. She's going to drag you to a decision, and she knows how to do that. Good luck. This is Jessica Andrade. She's an animal. She has a lot of power at any weight class in the women's division, at anyone she's fought at. And yeah, I don't know. I think Murphy could make this a tough fight because she knows what she's doing. But I think Andrade is going to catch her at some point, and I got this one ended in a TKO as well. I'll say round 2 again. Yeah,
I know Lauren Murphy is super tough and very durable, and I always underestimate her in every fight. But come on, Jessica Andrade is a monster. I think she gets a TKO in the first round because Lauren does rely on that durability. This is not the girl you want to do that with, so I'm going to go with Andrade, first round TKO.
There we go.
All right, we're going to move on to another very exciting fight, Gilbert Burns versus Neil Magny.
All right, Gilbert Burns, 20-5, 6 KOs, 8 subs, 6 decision. But, I mean, if you look at the guys that Gilbert's lost to, like he lost to Usman in a fight he got caught, but a fight that he also knocked Usman down several times and was looking good at. And then look at his last loss was to Khamzat Chimaev, who's dominated everybody. Didn't dominate Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns took him to the limit like nobody else, almost won that fight. He beat Stephen Wonderboy Thompson in between there. He's got performance of the night 4 times. Just a great fighter, great guy. I'm a big fan. And his opponent, great guy. This is what I think is a little different. Very good fighter. Right, I think there's a separation here. Now, I'll go with this though. Magny's 27-9, 7 KOs, 4 subs, 16 decisions. He's got all kinds of records. He's tied for most fights in a calendar year, most decision wins in UFC history, most decision wins at UFC welterweight in history. He's got ties with George St. Pierre, Usman, and Edgar for second most unanimous decision wins in UFC history. Like he's a distance guy. He can take you there and he can drag you down, and he's constantly improving. So because he's constantly improving, you never know what he might bring to the table, and I think he's always in these fights. But based on what I've seen in the past, I can't go against Gilbert Burns because I think he's one of the elite, and he's right there. I got Burns. I'll say a submission, and I'm going to go round 2 again.
Yeah, Neil Magny is a fantastic fighter. He has a lot of intangibles. He gets better as the fight goes on, which is rare. It's Tony Ferguson-esque. But he is great. Mostly standing. He's good against the cage with clinch work, and he can wrestle and stuff. But his weakness is against top level jiu-jitsu guys. Mm-hmm. And although Gilbert Burns has fallen in love with his striking, let's not forget where he comes from. He is a BJJ master, world champion level. So this really is dependent, I think, on if Gilbert fancies himself a striker and he wants to go to war with Neil Magny, or if he just wants to get back to a title shot. He just takes Neil down. Not a super easy task to get Neil down, but eventually he will get him down and submit him. So I think that Gilbert's going to be smart enough to do that. I'm going to agree with you, actually. Round 2 submission for Gilbert Burns.
All right. So, and the next one here.
Yeah, we'll move on to our co-main event. It's our first title bout of the evening. Deiveson Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno 4. A very rare 4th fight in the UFC.
I didn't write the records down for this. I didn't want to. I actually chose not to because I think there's more of a story here. We don't even know to go into the records. The records don't actually matter for this. This is the 4th fight between them. For Deiveson Figueiredo, this is his 4th fight in a row against Brandon Moreno.
Yep.
Moreno has had 1 fight in here where he won the interim flyweight championship against Kai Kara-France. What is interesting about these fights? All right. First fight they fought was a draw. All right. A fight where Moreno looked better than he had ever looked in his career, comes and improved. And Figueiredo, I would argue, could have had this victory. He had a point deducted in the 3rd round for a groin shot. All right. So there wouldn't have been a draw if you don't take away that point deduction. Okay. So now they meet again in their second fight. Moreno looks like a completely different fighter. He finishes him, I believe, in round 4, if I remember correctly. He got the tap out. Mm-hmm. So it was late in the fight. And I'm like, after seeing that, if these two fight again, I'm thinking Moreno's going to win. Like, it was going to be a competitive fight, but he's got it. Nope. Deiveson Figueiredo starts training with Henry Cejudo and picks up things fast, which, by the way, we might have to start thinking, how good is Henry Cejudo as a coach? Because we're seeing rather quick results here.
I agree.
Right? And Figueiredo gets the win by decision. Moreno again hangs in there. So here are the variables. Deiveson has not fought in a little while since that last fight. Moreno has. Will that work in Moreno's favor or not? Has Deiveson been spending all this time training with Cejudo and becoming the unstoppable wrestler? Does it matter? Because every time we see Moreno, he looks even more unstoppable. And not unstoppable like he's adding all these wrinkles. Like suddenly he just has even more endurance, more of a chin, and he's even a better striker. It's like, how does he get better at that? He does. Beyond that, too, this is without a doubt already been the greatest trilogy in flyweight history. Mm-hmm. No exceptions here. This is absolutely it. It's arguably one of the best trilogies in MMA ever. It might be, and it probably doesn't get the respect it deserves because of the flyweights. All right, and they don't have the names. When you watch these fights, just in terms of excitement and what they bring, absolutely, I would say this is arguably the best feud in MMA of all time, and not because of there's been a little trash talk here and there, but not because of that, but because of what they do in the octagon and each other, and how all their fights, they each continue to improve every time they meet. I am going to guess who's going to win based on everything they've done. There is no way I could confidently tell you who's going to win this fight. They both seem to be different every time. It's in Brazil. Fuck that. I'm going with Brandon Moreno because I like this guy. And I think at the end of it, if he does put on the performance he would, this Brazil crowd will turn and actually cheer for Brandon Moreno. He's that damn good. So I'm going to go Brandon Moreno by decision. Anything could happen. This could end at any time. It could go either way. They're both that good and they're both that capable. I'm just ready to enjoy this one.
Yeah, I'm mirror your thoughts on this 100%. I'm just excited for the fight. It's almost not even worth trying to pick someone. They're so closely contested.
I'm going with my heart, probably.
Yeah,
but
I'm the same. Brandon Moreno is the most likable fighter on the roster. So, I mean, I respect Deiveson for sure. I get it's in Brazil. He is definitely the power puncher, but Moreno shows he has a chin. I just hope we get a fight similar to the fights we've seen so far, and the fans are treated to something special as a warm-up to the main event. So I do hope I am going with Brandon Moreno. I hope he wins. I'm rooting for him. But above all, I just want another Figueiredo and Moreno war. So hopefully we get that.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll move on to the main event. Speaking of storylines, we got another one here. Glover Teixeira versus Jamahal Hill.
All right. Yes. Glover, 43 years old. All right. That's the big thing to be noted here. He's 33-8, 18 KOs, 10 subs, 5 decisions. Jamahal Hill, 11-1-1, 7 KOs, 4 decisions, 1 no contest, a fight he had won, but he had a marijuana violation. So he's really only lost 1 time. That was to Paul Craig. No shame in that. And that was a little while ago. And I think Jamahal is even a better fighter since then. I think he's a guy that keeps working and improving. And there's a reason why he got this title shot. Right. That being said, 11-1-1, 13 fights. Glover Teixeira, 33-8, all right, 41 fights, and over a lot of the best fighters in the world. Hold on here. We got our boy Bakui here. Jamahal Hill, minus that crazy loss with the arm kick, has been a finisher. I agree. And I think you could argue to Jamahal Hill, like, because of the styles And because Glover is older, I can see where Jamahal might catch him. It's kind of hard fight to predict. I, however, like Glover in this because Glover has not shown me he's ready to go out yet. Glover is so crafty. Like, he's got such a high MMA IQ. He knows how to survive. Meaning if Jamahal catches him early and goes for the finish, Glover knows how to weather those storms. He's probably one of the best at that in light heavyweight history, I think. Not going to be surprised if Jamahal catches him and finishes him. He's a much younger man, athletic, and this could be his time to shine. I love, again, maybe going my heart a little bit. Glover's already had his moment, but to get that moment one more time and do it in Brazil, good for him. I like Glover. I'm going to say Glover will weather the storm. I'm saying he's going to get hurt early, though. But I think by round 4, Glover's going to catch him, wear him down, and I say he'll submit him. Jamahal said that he's in his camp was saying basically that he's on the ground, that he can't see where Glover is going to get him in trouble. I think that's talk. I think you avoid the ground with Glover at all costs.
Yeah, I agree. I think Glover has a tremendous advantage on the ground. But I agree with you. On the feet, I'd say Hill has the big power advantage, and I think he has a reach advantage. So I think Glover will get stunned.
Absolutely.
At some point. But in that, he'll drop down he'll shoot for a takedown. Hill will get overly aggressive when he hurts him. And he'll get taken down and just bullied, I think, on the ground. So I'm going to go with the memorable moment as you are. I'm going to say at home in Brazil, 43-year-old Glover Teixeira gets it done. Yeah. He seems like a big moment guy, so I think we continue that here. I'm going to pick Glover with a 4th-round submission.
Oh, okay. So we're in agreement then. That's actually all right. And Bagley in the comments here, I'm just going to give you some shine. Jamahal by KO. Glover hasn't seen a sharp striker like this in a while. I'm not even really arguing. But at the end of the day, I just think Glover can weather it. But I'm not going to be shocked if he doesn't either.
Hill's striking is somewhat similar to Gustafsson, who really put it on Glover and beat him down bad. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happened either, but I just see Glover in this moment, with the moment being so big, and it being in Brazil and everything, I think he'll be able to weather it, and Jamahal might get a little bit overwhelmed. He is supremely confident, but we'll see when he's walking in there and the crowd's telling him we're going to kill you and all that. So.
Well, yeah, I think the UFC is kind of, in particular, Dana White. I feel like he's pretty good with either victory. Like, I feel on one hand, Jamahal Hill, up-and-comer, loves to bang. Like, this is a total Dana White type of guy. On the other hand, Glover, I think, is one of the few guys we've seen Dana White has a legitimate soft spot for and loves this guy. So I feel like either way, the UFC will be happy with this decision.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you.
Yeah.
So, we're rooting for Glover here, but,
Yeah, I won't hate on Hill. I like Hill, actually. But at the end of the day, I think I just want to see one more Glover moment before he goes out.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Next week, we're going to be doing MMA Jeopardy, January 28th. There's no UFC, so Dave and I are going to, play some trivia. And then February 5th, that's a Sunday, UFC Fight Night, Lewis versus Spivak. That card starts at 1 a.m. Eastern on Sunday. And then we're moving back into pay-per-view territory. February 11th, UFC 284, Makhachev versus Volkanovski.
Should be a banger. All right, guys. Thanks for joining the Combatcast.